Greetings. Welcome to the Yang Style Long Form course. I'm Michael Gilman. This lesson is probably the most important lesson of all. And it has to do with recognizing the importance of the stances in Tai Chi. We're going to explore the proper stance, why we use it, and some of the problems that can happen if the stance is not correct. So one of the classic teachings of Tai Chi says that if there's ever a problem in the form anywhere, always look to the legs, look to the stances, because this is the foundation of all that is to come. And upon these stances, the legs, we build all of the incredibly beautiful movements that attract people to Tai Chi. And most of when we see Tai Chi being performed, we see these beautiful flowing upper body movements, and the legs assume a very secondary or supporting role. And yet, truly, without the legs, there will be nothing much going on in the upper body. The legs, in energy, we say in Tai Chi that energy comes from the earth. It moves into the legs. From the legs it moves to the waist, and from the waist it moves outward. So by having a good strong connection to the earth, we will develop more energy. So we'll explore all those things as we go through the stances today. Now, first what I want to do is every week, every lesson, we'll start off with what we call warm-ups. Just a way to sort of get our mind and our body working and functioning together. Master Choi, I remember Master Choi in his classes, Master Choi, who was my instructor, in his classes, he never did any warm-ups at all. We'd come into class and he'd just start moving through the movements. And people would say, I remember somebody said to him, well, how come you don't do any warm-ups? And he said, well, Tai Chi is a warm-up. Why do you need to warm up to warm up? And that is really true. That's very, very true. And yet, there are times when we can't do our Tai Chi, or we only have a very limited few minutes. So these warm-ups are very helpful to get the energy flowing, to get the little bit of warmth in the body before we start doing our Tai Chi, help to focus us. And I think it's particularly important for people who do shorter forms of Tai Chi. The form that you are going to be learning is 108 movements, what we call the long form, 108 movements, and it takes approximately 20 minutes to go through. So in that period of time, you get plenty warmed up. Now, if somebody is studying a short form, there's many short forms, some as short as 4 minutes, you don't get a chance to get warmed up quite as much. So the value of warm-ups are more important for you. Okay, so we start off all of our warm-ups with what we call our Wu Chi stance, our shoulder width stance, having a nice solid base of support, feet shoulder width, relaxing into your feet, feeling the bottoms of the feet on the ground. Now, in all of these, we want to keep the body relaxing, keeping the image of open, loosen, and relax. Open, loosen, and relax. We do not want to be creating tension in the body. We want to be relaxing. Okay, with the shoulders relaxed. And all of these warm-ups really have to do with coming from the center, identifying your center of movement, which we call the dantian, the center of the body, and from that radiates out energy, sort of like we drop a pebble into a water, and boom, that's the center, and everything comes out from that. And so in Tai Chi, we focus on the center. It's like we dropped a pebble right below your belly button, and from there, everything radiates out. So starting for our basic warm-up, the feet are shoulder width, the knees are always soft. Now, we don't lock the knees in Tai Chi ever. We don't hold them stiff. We always keep a certain flex. This is like our shock absorbers. Okay, so we always keep a little bit of flexibility in the legs. And as we go through this course, you'll see the importance of that. The shoulders are relaxed. Head always wants to remain upright. We don't want to let ourselves, thinking, sometimes you'll say, okay, relax, and people go, well, if you do this, there's a lot of tension created in the body that's sort of hidden. And if you keep a nice upright stance, you will be able to relax comfortably. It's what we call dynamic relaxation. It's different than laying down. It's more like a cat, who is sort of like at ready. There's an attentiveness, but a relaxed attentiveness. Okay, so the first warm-up is a simple turning of the waist. Now, this movement is coming from the torso, the belly button turning. I'm just concentrating on my belly moving along a horizontal plane. The arms happen to be going along with the body. Now, in the beginning, a lot of beginners will want to do it like this. And that has some merit, but as you can see, it looks a little stiff. All right? And I'm not getting any shoulder arm exercise. I am getting the torso warmed up, but there's tension in my shoulders. So if you let the arms go and do the same movement, you'll notice that the arms sort of wrap around the body. Now, it's not the arms moving. See, here my torso is quiet and my arms are moving. This is not it. Also, it's not the arms stiff and movement. It's the torso turning and the arms wrapping around. Now, make sure those of you who are watching this now, get up and do this so you can experience it. Don't just sit there. This is very important. This is probably one of the best and most simple ways to warm up the spine, to get the energy moving in the body. It's very simple and very easy. And it's incredible training for Tai Chi because all Tai Chi movements are based on this simple kind of movement. Okay, the knees are soft. If my knees were locked, I would feel out of balance. The knees are soft, so this can happen. Now, I feel just a slight bit of inhibition because I have a microphone right here. And as I hit around here, it interferes with the sound and makes funny sounds. So I tend to not, because sometimes one of the main things that one can do is use this centrifugal force to hit, like we do hitting kind of motions. In Chinese medicine, there's a lot of different hitting things to stimulate the body, either to break up toxins, to break up congestion, to get energy moving. And so as we do this, if I do a little more vigorous, I can hit into the shoulder joint. The shoulder joint is a place where a lot of stuff gets stuck. So as we do this, use the center of the palm. Now this point is very important in Tai Chi, called the Lao Gong point, which is right in the center of the palm, and a lot of energy comes in and out through this point. So this is going to kind of be hitting here. Now I'm not going to just stand here and hit. No, this is a byproduct of this turning of the waist. So now it just makes too much noise. Okay, so I'm getting the direction that it makes too much noise. So anyway, you get the idea. See, so this is going up to hit and going up to hit. Okay, see. Okay, so one could do this. One could do this, for as long as you want. You're in the line at the store. You have a couple of minutes. You can just do this. Do not be afraid to be yourself and to take care of yourself. Other people might be inhibited to joggers don't. It doesn't bother them to run around in the skimpiest of costumes around the town. So why should you feel inhibited standing there fully clothed, turning your waist? It doesn't, but yet I hardly ever see people do these kinds of things. In China, you see people everywhere doing all these sorts of healthy activities. Okay, so this is the very first, turning the waist. Okay. The next part of this warming up is that we want to warm up the spine. So here we're warming up the spine sort of on a horizontal plane. We also want to warm it up on a vertical plane. So in this, when we go down, and we're going to combine these in a minute, but I'll just show you, when we roll down, we're going to do a movement called roll down. When we roll down, we start at the top and we sort of let the pieces fall. See? It's not bending stiffly forward. Now again, I can't really talk when I go down because it interferes with this microphone. But just watch as we roll down. It starts with the head and then goes all the way down. Keep your knees soft, right? So you roll down and then roll up, and the roll up is the opposite, starting at the bottom and rolling up. Okay, so that's what we call rolling down and rolling up. So what's going to happen is you can do this, we could do this together, is letting the head go. Okay, so we're going to combine the turning of the waist and the rolling down. So we start with turning. Keep your knees soft, head up, relaxing. Then start your roll down. Yeah, so rolling down and rolling up once again. All right. So then, after any activity, it's very good to kind of shake. Now, shaking, what shaking does is when one does physical activity, a byproduct of the activity is what we call lactic acid. As the muscles break down sugars to make it into energy, there's a byproduct, what's called lactic acid, and it's got to get out of the body, be dispersed. And the body can generally deal with most of it, but sometimes if there's a lot, you've done a lot, the body can't get rid of all that lactic acid and you get muscle stiffness and pain. You know how, your arms or your muscles are sore after you've done something. Well, that's that lactic acid buildup. So what's good to do is after you do activity is just to disperse that accumulation. So turning the waist helps, and then also shaking. So shaking is very important as a part of our warm-up. And what we want to do is always imagining that we have joints. The body is held together there's all these bones held together by tendons and ligaments and muscles, and we have joints so that we can move. And every place there's a joint, there is potential for stiffness, for problems to arise. Most of the problems in the body happen in the joints. Most of the stiffness, tension happen in the joints. It's hard, not too many people have muscular problems themselves. Mostly, we have knee problems or elbow problems or ankle problems or hips, right where these pieces fit together. So by shaking, imagining that all of these joints are opening and loosening, and feeling the muscles sort of jiggling around and flapping around will really help. If we had the time, which we're not going to take the time right now, you could do one, concentrate on just loosening the thumb, concentrate on the next finger, right? Loosen all the fingers, then loosen the hand, and loosen the wrist, and loosen the forearm, and move through the body, really concentrating on each little piece, right? Shaking and feeling. But for now, shake everything. So we shake the arms, shoulders. You can throw the arms away. This little action of throwing the arm away is very good to open up the shoulder joint. Okay? And it all comes from the center. See? My center is the thing that's moving and causing all these things to happen. And you'll get it after a while. You'll learn to move from the center. In Tai Chi, if I wanted to scratch my head, I can't hardly do this without, having the center doing it. Every effective movement happens from the center. If you see baseball or basketball or football or golf or anything, every one of these movements, it's the torso that makes it all happen. You could imagine if somebody tried to hit a ball just using their arms, it wouldn't be anything, right? So, throw it away. Throwing away. Just loose and free. Good. Shaking. We can shake the legs. Same thing. You put your weight. Now, if this is early, if you have any kind of balance issues at the moment, you can put your hand on a chair, you can put your hand on the wall or something like that, or you can even hold a little stick and you can shake. Because we don't want to be creating tension in the body, we want to be creating looseness and openness. So if you have any problems like this, you're doing this, it's not going to do you any good. You need to have something there to relax yourself. So shaking, again, this movement is coming from my center out. And particularly the hip joint is working here. Good. And shake, and just a little kick. You can kind of kick a little bit, just like I threw the arm away. Kicking opens up the hip joint. This is very good. And shaking, I can shake two arms. I can't really shake two legs. So taking the time to feel inside the body and shake. Okay, and the little kickouts. These little kickouts, it's sort of as if I'm kind of walking down the road and kicking a little can or something. This is very good for helping to open up the back, to let the hips go. It's a very light little movement. It is very effective for helping with any low back kind of issues. Okay, so we've done that. Turn the waist again. Keep your knees soft. Your movements, you'll notice that your movements will get bigger and more expansive as you get warmed up and loosened. Then rolling down. And up. Good. And then we're going to integrate ourselves. After we've done this, before we move into our stance work, we're going to integrate ourselves. So you want to stand comfortably, knees soft, pelvis slightly tucked under. You want to imagine the spine erect, top of the head slightly lifting, chin slightly tucked under. Remember, when you're standing upright, there's a tendency to think about kind of standing like this. Well, there you can see I'm shortening the neck. If you think about slightly tucking under here, it straightens the neck somewhat so that we can achieve this height and standing tall. The shoulders and arms are just hanging to the sides. Now, if your hands don't hang to the sides, most people tend to hang in the front because we're stronger. The muscles in the front are stronger than the muscles in the back. So what you're going to have to do is just bring them over a little bit, and you don't want to be too tight and tense, but you do want to, as much as possible, run your hands down the side. If you do this often, your muscles will tone, and this will become a natural state for you. Okay, so you're standing upright, you're breathing in and out through the nose and directing the breath to the lower belly. Directing the breath to the lower belly. So there's a rising and falling in the lower belly. As you inhale, expanding the lower belly, exhale, contracting the lower belly. Then we take an integration breath, squatting a little bit, open ourselves up. It's sort of like you just imagine you're out in the sun and you want the rays of the sun just to be striking you, and you gather these rays and you direct them into the top of the head, what we call the byway point at the very top of the head. It's an energy opening for the top, for the yang qi to come down. And then we allow this energy just to stream through us. It's sort of like we're going to get an internal suntan of energy. Inside the whole body, everything is integrating, smoothing, all the way through the torso, down the hips, down the legs, and it just moves right on out through the bottoms of the feet and through the floor. So this breath, what I call integration breath, or Chinese term called Shougong, is a very nice thing to do, and a lot of teachers, a lot of people, practitioners, do it often. They'll do a little something and then gather. Sort of like you're always smoothing and gathering energy, and it's a very nice thing to do. It helps the mind to focus, to get the mind and body working together. Since Tai Chi is an internal energy exercise, we are concerned with our internal environment, how we feel from the inside. It's not sort of like bodybuilding where we stand in front of a mirror and see what our external body looks like. What we're more concerned with is, what does the internal environment feel like? And as we go on and as you do your movements, everything comes from the center. We want to feel the relaxation, feel the energy movement of the body. So start practicing now. When you're turning your waist, bring your attention inside. Don't put on, the Rolling Stones and do your movements to that. It'll take you outside of yourself. You want to go inside of yourself. Listen to your heart. Feel the blood flow. Feel the energy flow. And then you'll be gaining much more benefit. A lot more benefit. Okay? So that's sort of the basic warm-up. We'll always be doing this warm-up, and then we always will be adding other things to it. So now what I want to focus in on is the stances, these stances. And as I said before, this is the most important thing there is. You must pay attention to this. You must practice. If you practice your stances, before long it will become natural and you won't have to think about it, and then there's a lot of other things that will demand your attention. If you don't pay attention in the beginning, you'll never be able to master this art. It's not difficult. Tai Chi is not difficult at all if you pay attention and practice. All right? So I'm going to call on my assistant as we go through this course. Different people will come in to help me to explain things. And in this case, Stephanie Morel will be coming in and helping me to explain to you the reason for stances and why we have them. So Steffi, if you come on in. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Stephanie is a teacher here in the Port Townsend area, teacher of Tai Chi. Okay, so I know she's busy, so I just want to go through some of the reasons why we concern ourselves with the foot movement, and then I can dismiss her and we can practice together. Now, so what I like to do in the classes that I teach in person is go through a little process to demonstrate to ourselves why it's important to have the stance that we use. So I will do it with you, and I'll just go through with Steffi. Now, Steffi, of course, is going to have to fake not knowing some of this stuff, but I think she'll do a good job. So if she starts out with her feet together, now the stance is what we call a base of support. Our stance is our base of support. So you see in this case, Stephanie has a very narrow base of support. You see her shoulders are wider than her feet. Now, this is a martial art. Tai Chi is a martial art. We're always dealing with incoming energies. Energies come from every direction. So we need to be prepared to deal with energies coming in from every direction. First direction, we'll say, is straight on, which tends to be how the energy will most probably come in most of the time. So in this case, as I push Stephanie, and say if she really is resistant, she feels resistant, and she tries to resist me, and I push, you see, it doesn't take, now come back. Now Stephanie's very strong, now, but I do want you to resist me. I'll use my little finger. Now resist me nice and strongly. You see, I can push her over with one little finger, and I'm not even working that hard, and I didn't get her in any of her acupuncture points that might have hurt her. Okay, so because her base of support is too small. It could be the same thing if I go over here and don't let me push you. You see, she cannot deal with it. The base of support is too small. So this isn't going to work. But this is what's called the stance of movement. If I say to Stephanie, okay, take a step ahead with your foot. Now watch her. Okay, now just a second. Now, focus in, now watch how fast she can go. Right? She can, because her feet are together, she can just zip. This is what's called the stance of movement. It's very fast. Okay, so let's take a really wide stance, really wide. Okay, now we've got this big base of support, very strong base of support. In karate and different arts like that use this. Now, particularly if I push from the side, you see, it's very strong this way, which she could take a lot of energy. Now, in this direction, even though she's got this huge base of support, it hasn't helped her because the energy's coming this way. It's harder to deal with it. And plus, I've told her to sort of be stiff. She can deal with it by loosening, and I'll show you in a minute. Okay, we'll just say if she loosens, and I do this, you see now all of a sudden, it's hard for me to have anything to push against, you see? So I have to be, and then at some point, I can overcome her because it just can't, the force coming this way is just too much. Okay, now big wide, big wide. Now, focus in on her stance again here. Now, I want you to step ahead with your right foot. Okay, now I want you to step ahead. Okay, nice and wide. Now step ahead quickly. Yeah, you see how there's this delay because you cannot step. In order to step, she has to shift the weight over to this foot. And with a wide stance like that, it takes an awful lot of time to do that. And in the martial arts, time is very, very important. Okay, so this is called the base of power. If you don't have to move very much, you can develop a lot of power and strength. So you'll see a lot of arts like karate and gung fu and all those, they use these very wide stances. But it's hard to move. In Aikido and Judo, movements, arts that you have to move fairly quickly, they have a much narrower stance. They use, like almost almost a natural, what we call a natural stance. Narrow. Okay, now, but in Tai Chi, we have another. We have this, what's called shoulder width stance. So in the shoulder width stance, if I push her, and she's fairly stiff, she can take kind of more. It's not too bad there. But if she can relax, and she relaxes and deals with it, you see, she can transfer her energy around and all of that. Okay, that's very good. And if I push her from the side, that's fine. She can deal with that well. Okay. If I add quite a bit here, you see, I can get her. Okay. So, if you come out there a little bit. So this stance is pretty good. Now, so you've got your shoulder width here. So she's able to deal pretty well with energy, but not as solidly as the wide one. But now look at her as you step ahead. You know, see? There's a little hesitation as she goes a step, but not much. Not much. More than this, less than that. So this is, in Tai Chi, we take the middle ground, we compromise. So this is why we have the shoulder width. We can move, and yet we can deal with energy. Okay, now, since most of the energy is coming from the front, don't you think we could deal with energy better than we were? You see here, you think if we had somebody stand behind her and I tried pushing, of course, it would be difficult to push her over. She had a brace, you know. So what we do in Tai Chi is we put one foot back or forward, whatever. See, now she has a brace. Break or brace. Very good. Okay, so now when I push her, when she's forward, good and solid forward, now I am pushing into the ground. Now, what's very important in Tai Chi is that you, what we call ground the energy or root the energy. If I push up here, you see the energy is going up. It's very difficult to get it into the ground. You see, it's sort of like there's nothing to stop it. But here, if I push straight ahead, here I'm going to push straight ahead, what Stephanie can do is come in nice and strong forward. What she can do is direct it into the ground. So now I'm actually pushing the ground. Now, if I push, for instance, I push it this way, she doesn't quite have that brace. So if I was pushing this, she'd have to move her body, change her body structure a little bit, and now I'm pushing the ground again, just by a little bit of change in her body structure. So this stances, all these stances, the first reason for it is to have a way to deal with incoming energy, to root it, so it doesn't overcome us. The second thing that we want to do with our stance is to be able to give energy back. Is to give energy back. So if I am pushing solidly into Stephanie, and she takes that energy into her leg, you see, now I'm loading up her leg. Her leg is getting more energy, and at some point, if she releases it, it can go into me and propel me out. You see, if I push in, she gathers, and as she releases, it comes into my body and I go out. Now, she could do it with fists, with elbows. You're going to gather, what we call gather energy, borrow energy into the leg. We then take it and release it out. Okay, so we have, and I'll explain to you, there's many reasons why we have this particular relationship, but I guess I don't really need Stephanie to explain that, so I think you're done. Okay, thank you very much. You'll see Stephanie quite often in the coming lessons. Okay, so let's look at this. You can see on the floor, I don't know if you've been seeing in the picture, this square, and you've been wondering, my goodness, somebody forgot something on here. And what this is what I call the stance square or practice square. Now, I said what's important is shoulder width stance, right? Shoulder width. So if I were to say to some people, okay, here's shoulder width, they maybe go like this, or maybe they go like this. So you can have somebody like measure your shoulders, and you can kind of take a tape measure and do this. Or somebody showed me, you put your feet together and then turn out the heels and then straighten them up, and this ends up being shoulder width. So it's approximate. You will see what works for you. Particularly in the beginning of Tai Chi studies, a little narrower stance is probably more comfortable. And as you get stronger, a little bit wider stance you can deal with. But right now, you want to approximate shoulder width. So this square, what I've done is, you see, I've got two lines coming out from the center of my foot. One here and one here. So this is like a track going straight ahead from the center of my foot, my shoulder width. Then I stood to the side and did the same thing, shoulder width, going this way. So now I have effectively a square that is approximately my shoulder width. This is all, I just whipped it, put it pretty quickly down the floor right before the show, but this is good enough. So in this will show us our shoulder width. Now, the stance that you saw Stephanie taking is what we call bow and sit stance. Sometimes it's called bow and arrow stance, or bow and sit. Master Choi, my teacher, called it bow and sit. And it's called a bow stance because an archer takes this stance, a bow stance. Sometimes it looks like a bow, that this is sort of bent like a bow and this is kind of straight like an arrow. That's possible, but anyway, we call it bow and sit. Bow and sit. Or actually, I call in Chinese, it's a bu, which means stance. So it's I don't know if the bow comes from bu or comes from something else. But in any case, I call it the bow and sit stance, and that's how I'll be referring to it. Okay, so you're clear about how to make this square, and I'll show you how this is going to help us to figure out how to do these particular stances. You stand, shoulder width, parallel. You want to parallel. You don't want to start off like this. Start off with your feet parallel. This is coming out of the center, and then to the side, coming out of the center. Okay. Now, in order to practice and to do bow and sit, you place your instep, the center of your foot, on the intersection. I'm not going to place the toe on the intersection or the heel on the intersection, but the instep on the intersection. Okay? And I'm turning the toes out at a 45-degree angle, and I'll explain that to you in a minute why. But for now, place your feet out at a 45-degree angle. We then lower the weight. Now, in Tai Chi, for all the stances, we have what we call knee covers the toe, which means that the knee just barely covers the toe. If you go too far forward, past the toe, you'll see what'll happen is you'll put way too much tension on the knee. If the knee doesn't go as far as the toe, it's just sort of like this, you don't get very much exercise. Not as much exercise. And the energy won't be being propelled in the right direction. So we want to move ahead till the knee just covers the toe. That is the general rule in Tai Chi, is knee covers the toe. Now, another very, very, very important thing about the stances is that the knee always goes in the direction of the toe. This is the most, you've got to listen to this. The knee always goes in the direction of the toe. That is the only way you can possibly hurt yourself that I know in Tai Chi, is if the knee goes in some other direction. Now, okay, let's have a close-up say of this. Now, in this case here, you can see my knee is going in the direction of the toe. And this is as it should be. Now, what tends to happen, particularly in the beginning, because the legs aren't quite strong enough, is this starts to happen. Or, you see, the knee is going in a different direction, and you can see what this is going to do. You can see how it puts a stress on this part of my knee inside. It puts a stress on my ankle and on my foot and on my hip. If it lines up, the knee in the direction of the toe, the energy can go down into the floor and into the foot. This way it goes, I only feel it on my big toe and part of my instep. Here, the energy can then go into the ground. I feel it in the ground, which is what we want to be relating with. We want to be working with the ground. So it's very important that in every single part of every movement, the knee goes in the direction of the toe. And I will be constantly reminding you of that. Now, this is, as we work, I'll show you, this is the bow and sit stance. When I'm back, this knee is still going in the direction that the toe is. There's a tendency to let this happen. You see? Can you see this? I've seen pictures, one of the more popular Tai Chi books, the guy is standing like this, and I go, oh God, that hurts me and kills me. It's not good. It's a very terrible thing to do to your body. You must keep the knee going in the direction of the toe. When you're walking, when you're running, when you're doing anything, it's so important to have your knee go in the direction of the toe. Anything else is going to eventually cause you major problems. So train yourself. If you do these stances correctly, you will be strengthening the muscles appropriately. You will be getting the tendons and ligaments all lined up and straightened so that your natural movements will become more appropriate. So do pay strict attention to having the knee go in the direction of the toe, and just barely covering. Do not extend the knee past the toe at all, ever, if you can help it. Okay, so there's a couple of things. So here we go. Bow and sit stance. Starting out, turning out the toes to a 45-degree angle, instep on the intersection. Lower the weight. Now at this point, the knees you see are going in the direction of the toes. If you don't want to come down with the knees going inside, the knees go in the direction of the toes. They come just cover the toe. The back is straight. There's a tendency on doing this to either lean forward or lean back. You want to keep the back straight. This is sometimes, if I put my feet straight and do this movement, this would be called horse riding stance. Horse riding stance. It's as if I'm riding a horse. This is how you ride when you're in the, you have feet in the stirrups. There's, this is a basic martial arts stance called horse riding stance. This, when we do a lot of, if we do basic standing meditations, a lot of times we use this particular stance. In order to practice bow and sit stance, we first turn out to 45. I haven't gotten to a reason why yet, but we do, okay? Next, shift the weight to the right foot. Now, if you're watching this on the screen, you'll be going in the opposite direction than me, but do shift the weight to the right foot. The knee goes in the direction of the toe, and you're sitting on this. You can roll up, now you can take the weight and sort of roll up off of this left foot. Then, we're going to step ahead with the left foot. And this is why this square is important. If I just said to the majority of people, step straight ahead with your left foot, what would happen? It would be something like this. Now you could see I did step straight ahead, but I have narrowed my stance, and now I have this sort of a smaller base of support, narrower base of support, so my body is not as stable. What you want to do is when you step ahead in Tai Chi, you step right out of the hip so that I then am coming to this intersection. The instep will go to this intersection. Now, in Tai Chi, another thing that we do is we always touch down. When you're stepping forward, you touch down the heel first. One wouldn't reach and step with the toe. One always steps and touches the heel down first. You then place the foot down and shift your weight forward until the knee just covers the toe. The knee covers the toe. In this case, for this stance practice, the torso faces the direction the toe is headed. So I wouldn't be doing it sideways. You want to make sure that your torso faces the direction your toe is headed. The toes are like the wheels, the tires of a car. Where they point, the energy goes. So you want to line everything up. In this case, I want to line my whole body up with the direction that my toe is headed, which is just, I could step straight ahead here. I'm just going to take my left toe and turn it a little bit out to the left. It's just a slight bit more comfortable. Okay, so this is now called left foot bow stance. Left foot bow stance. The back is straight. The back leg has a little bit of flex in it. It's not straight and locked. You want to feel the ground. You want to feel the earth. These feet are sort of like I'm surfing on the floor, you see. You never see surfboard people stiff. It's always, you're kind of moving around, you've got your feet on the ground, okay? So this is called left foot bow stance. Now, taking the entire torso, shift back and sit back on this back leg. The torso is still facing the same direction. The knee is going in the direction of the toe. We're sitting on this leg. It's very easy to lean back or to lean forward. You don't want to do either of those. You want to keep the back straight. This is now called right foot sit stance. So, this is the practice of moving and folding and coming from foot to foot. Now, as you notice, as I said, everything comes from the center. I am concerned with moving the center of my body forward and backward along a plane, horizontal plane. It's very easy to come up and come down. Come up, come down. No, you want to be, this is likened to an accordion, you see? Or a pleated skirt. Something that folds and expands in on itself. So here what I'm doing is working on the muscles, strengthening the muscles, working on all the joints. You see the ankle, the knee, and the hip, working on opening all those joints. We're working on our balance. When you're back, you see all the weight is back here. So you're sitting on one leg, you're working on your balance. When you're forward, most all of the weight's here. You're working on improving one's balance. This is very important for circulation of the body. You know, the muscles circulate so much of the energy of the body, and particularly the cleansing, the lymph system is pumped by the muscles. So by doing that with these big, huge muscles down here, we're moving and cleansing and helping to heal the body. So this is what we call bow and sit stance. And you can do it at any speed that you want. I generally do it with my breath. So I breathe rhythmically. Generally, I inhale coming back and exhale moving forward, concentrating on the belly. You can do it either way. You don't have to concern yourself with it at all if you don't want to, but it'll be important later on. Okay, so generally do it about 10 times. Then, now this is very important, to come back to starting position. You sit back, lift up the toe. Now, keeping all the weight on the right foot, bring the left foot back to the intersection, approximately, and then stand up. Now, you're probably going to feel some work in here, so shake out a little bit. You know, there's so much. I could go on for hour after hour about this stance. There's so much about this, you know, that, wow-wee, so important. Okay, let's do this other side, and I'll do it from the back so you at home can see this. Starting with the feet on the intersection, turn out the toes 45. Lower the weight, keep the back straight. This time, shift the weight to the left foot. You turn the torso to face sort of this left toe. Roll up the right. Now, do not move the body when you step. When you step straight ahead, do not move the body. The tendency is going to be to want to fall ahead. It's very important, which I'll explain to you as we go on, not to move until you have a root. You've got a root in your left. Do not move until you get the root in the right. Put the foot down, then shift ahead. The knee goes in the direction of the toe. The back is straight. The back leg is relatively straight without being locked. This is now called right foot bow stance. We shift the weight straight back, left foot sit stance. Don't lean. Keep the back nice and straight. So it's right bow, left sit. Right bow, left sit. So in the beginning, you can do this very easy. You want to just be relaxing. You also want to feel the feet interacting with the ground. You know, like keeping your feet nice and open and feel your feet interacting with the ground. This is right bow and left sit. Right bow and left sit. Nice and easy. Good. So about 10 times, it's not too important, we'll say, and I've lost count, so we'll say that's 10. So now come back, turn your torso sort of so you're facing the direction your back leg toe is headed. Lift up, get your balance, bring the foot back to its intersection, and then stand up and shake out. So this is the basic reason. Now, the reason that in Tai Chi, the back foot is going to be at a 45-degree angle to the direction you're headed. In this way, it's the most natural and important for dealing with incoming energy. If it's parallel, you're going to find you're back here, and you can try this at home, it doesn't work. And if it's at a 90-degree angle, right angle, it's too open and too unstable. If the back foot is at a 45-degree angle, you can move forward and backward very easily. So in all the movements, you're going to end up with the back foot at about a 45-degree angle to the direction you headed. So we start off, I could turn it out, then shift and step. But if we start off with it like 45, then it's there when I'm at the end and it's fine, okay? So this is what's called the bow and sit stance, and it's the foundation stance for all that's to come. So do pay very close attention to this, okay? Practice it. You can practice it anytime, in any place, anywhere. It's very important. You're standing in line, you know. Once you get, you know, once you've made your square and you get, let's see, okay, now how does this feel? Then you don't need the square anymore. You can just, you know, you just do it and you'll know what feels right to you. And then just do this bow and sit. Very good. It's very good for developing and strengthening the muscles and moving the energy, keeping healthy. This is certainly one of the best exercises that I know of, really. And it's very good, and particularly if you balance when stepping. When you step ahead, balance when you step. When you come back, balance when you come back. That way you're constantly working on your balance. And as we age, you know, that's very, very important. Okay, well, I think that I'm afraid I've run out of time. So the next lesson, we review the stances, go on, and then we move into the form itself. So do practice, you know, pay attention, practice, and you'll gain lots of benefits. So I look forward to our continued journey together. So thank you very much, and I'll just, if we have any time left, I'll just go through the movements and thanks again.